Today, we'll be visiting a different type of classroom. These students have traveled hundreds of kilometers just to learn about their home.
The Canadian Conference for the Arts is packing up after 67 years. Without this public policy watchdog, who's left to look after the national arts community?
Men everywhere are prepping their razors for the big reveal. This year's Movember ends in just 2 days. But is the campaign more style than substance? Stay tuned for the answers later on. Good afternoon, I'm Jonah Birnbaum.
And I'm Sherry Ask. These stories and more coming up on the 25th hour. Now for our top story.
The excited cheers of hockey fans. As Canadians well know, it's the sound usually filling arenas across the country. But not this year. The NHL lockout has kept both players and fans from enjoying the season. As I found out, however, hockey isn't the only business feeling the pain. You won't find an Ottawa senator here at Scotiabank Place. The NHL labor stoppage has locked them out for upwards of 2 months now. But while the players, owners, and fans are irate, the lockout's about more than just missed hockey games. Its wide-ranging economic ramifications have left some locals feeling the pinch. And as millionaires squabble with multimillionaires over revenue sharing, it's another group of people taking a financial hit. In years past, Ottawa Senators fans would congregate here at James Street Pub on game night. These days, it's a different story. Alex Monroe is in charge of the pub's business operations and development. And instead of counting Daniel Alfredson's goals or Jason Spetz's assists this season, he's crunching a different set of numbers that aren't nearly as fun.
Business-wise, we felt the lockout on a percentage basis. When we're talking about numbers, we're looking at probably 10 to 12% loss right now. That number will get worse exponentially as this lockout goes on, because Ottawans and Canadians really get going into hockey fever usually in January, February, March.
Monroe says that while other sports have done a decent job filling the programming void, in Ottawa there's really no replacement for NHL hockey.
UFC is big for us, NFL is big for us. Bottom line, we still miss hockey, no matter how you slice it.
And the next best available option, Major Junior Hockey, isn't getting the job done.
It's not the Senators, and not to take anything away from the 67s. They're a great organization, great club. It's just not the professional level.
And with no resolution in sight, the projections are only looking worse. And Monroe and his staff are at a loss for ideas.
If this strike continues, that 10%, 12% loss that we're feeling right now will probably go up to 20, 25%, because it's such an important part of our business at that time of year. We don't know what we're going to do. We've got to get creative marketing-wise. We've been talking about how we're going to do this. It's tough because nothing replaces that hockey game, especially that Saturday night hockey game. Very difficult.
How are you?
Things aren't quite as dire over at the Kitchissippi Brewery. Paul Meek says this Ottawa microbrewery hasn't really suffered since the NHL lockout began. The same can't be said about other Canadian beer companies.
I think the biggest one that's hurting right now is Molson. Obviously, they've got the exclusive rights to the Senators games and the Senators marketing opportunities. They're trying to do some different things, coming up with some unique brand extensions on their existing brands. But they're the ones that are really hurting it the most right now.
Hurting, indeed. Despite the fact that worldwide beer volume grew by more than 30% in the third quarter of this year, Molson's Canadian profits are down by roughly 7%. Once resolved, the Canadian brewer intends to seek compensation from the NHL over revenue lost from the lockout.
The small kegs are the 20-liter
It's a broader distribution network that's allowed Paul's Brewery to avoid the economic blowback of the lockout.
I think it's one of the benefits of being spread across things a little bit better, where we're not too concentrated in one area. We're not reliant on specific events and specific nights, so we're a little bit more diverse and a little bit more covered in terms of protection in that way.
But while the beer continues to flow, not every industry is doing as well. Sean McIndoe is a popular hockey columnist, better known by his pseudonym, Down Goes Brown. During the regular season, his writing appears in the National Post twice a week. Since the lockout began, he's down to once a week.
It's tough right now. You've got a lot of people who are paid to write about hockey and are paid to write about it frequently, and there's just not a lot going on right now.
McIndoe daylights at a software company, so the lockout hasn't caused him too much economic distress. But he's an anomaly.
If you're trying to do this as a full-time career, but you're doing it on a contract basis, you're doing it freelance, it's like any other freelance career. You're relying on that next contract and you never necessarily know where it's going to come from. And yeah, for those guys, it's really tough right now because you're taking a big dip in income.
And here in Canada, it's particularly bad.
Well, I think there's a big difference between how it's being handled in Canada and the U.S. I can tell you in the U.S., it's pretty easy for them. They just compensate by doing more coverage of the NBA, more NFL, and they're just forgetting about hockey altogether. Now in Canada, you can't do that.
And no media outlet knows the lockout pitfalls better than CBC. Professor Peter Thompson says the labor stoppage could jeopardize the broadcaster's right to NHL hockey.
I think that experience of everyone gathering, everyone watching the nationally broadcast game, it's changed really dramatically because of the lockout. It's not totally clear where how much longer the CBC is going to have a hold on that particular experience as well, right?
But whether it's CBC or TSN, fans here at James Street Pub know something is definitely missing.
Well, it's pretty frustrating. I think that a lot of people are pretty much just jaded at this point.
At this point, I seriously think it's really childish for both parties to basically be greedy all over the money that we're paying for to see a sport.
And I just find it amazing that a league would do that. In Europe, nobody would ever stop their league. They'd lose so much money. The NHL must be losing so much money right now.
And they're not the only ones. So long as the lockout persists, a variety of local businesses will have to play with their goalie pulled. For the 25th hour, I'm Jonah Birnbaum.
Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
Hockey isn't the only Canadian institution feeling the heat. The Canadian Conference for the Arts has to say goodbye after recent funding cuts. As the major voice for the nation's cultural sector, many wonder, when it's gone, what will become of the arts in Canada? 25th Hour reporter Danielle Clausen has more.
Sherry, this mural down at Heron Station was created by Pat Durr, who is just one of the many artists mourning the loss of the Canadian Conference for the Arts. The boxes have been packed and the arrangements have been made. For almost 7 decades, the Canadian Conference for the Arts has been the star advocate, emphasizing the importance of a unified national culture. After massive government cuts to cultural spending, the sun is setting on the CCA.
There's always been periods when I haven't been as abstract as other times.
Pat Durr was the visual arts representative on the board of the CCA in 1984.
Probably fairly recent stuff. It's as much needed today as it was needed then. I think there are all kinds of issues. I hear statements from the various members of the government which do not show any understanding of the arts, the issues of the arts, nor the importance of the arts. Other countries have long ago recognized that culture, arts, is very important in all aspects, external affairs, activities with other countries, within the country. I think that an organization that brings artists of all types together, the actors, the movie people, the people who sell the work, the theater people who put it on, it's very important that they get together and talk.
The CCA was founded in 1945 by a group of artists, including Lauren Harris of the Group of Seven.
Basically, the mandate of the CCA is to bring people together, to bring everybody together around issues of cultural policy and helping people identify what they have in common, as opposed the common interests that they have, as opposed to the specific interests that they have. One of the issues about the Canadian cultural sector is that it's extremely rich and diversified, but it is extremely fragmented and very poor. This organization provided all of those people with the possibility to identify issues of common interest.
Even as the boxes are being packed up, Durr says the CCA's role is just as vital as it was back in '84.
I think because that was a time when everyone was much more aware of Canadian culture. CARFACT was very strong in that time. The Canadian Conference of the Arts was very well recognized and had very important people sitting there from all aspects of Canadian culture.
Melissa Gruber is the advocacy director at the Canadian Artists Representation. Her job is to help make an industry of visual arts.
The CCA was most helpful for us to make sure that we weren't missing anything in particular. So like they would monitor what was going on at committees, and like we don't have enough staff on our own to have someone watching all of the committees that are happening all the time, as an example. And also there were a lot of things in the Copyright Act. Like the education example, we didn't really focus on because we knew that the CCA was working on it and that there were other arts organizations that were also concerned about it, that we could work with to make sure it didn't get lost, while we focused on the artist resale right, which was specific to visual artists. It's going to be difficult to make sure that things aren't getting missed, that if the government's, you know, sneaking something into a bill somewhere that you wouldn't think to look for it, that those kinds of things don't go through without anybody noticing. And it will be like that forum in which to work on projects together will certainly be missed. And also having someone letting us know when there's something that we should be concerned about and things like that.
The Conservative government did not respond to the 25th Hour's request for comment, but heritage critic Pierre Nantel says a loss for the arts is a loss for Canada.
I think that the lesson that many people get to understand now is that the louder you speak, the easier you'll get your head cut off, you know. Seriously, I think that in the copyright bill reform, I think that they were for sure the most vocal group to unite most creators around Canada. And they were quite critical about the reform.
While the CCA did many things with the conferences, they brought people together whose voice was not always happy with what the government was doing, and they presented those things forward. I mean, the government just doesn't want to tolerate being criticized.
While the government's budget leaves room for adjustments, for most artists in Canada, every penny counts.
The reality is most artists in Canada from their art are going to be living under the poverty level. What they're producing is important to Canadians. The cultural tourism market brings a lot of revenue into the Canadian economy. So it's important that we support our artists and that we have people producing content. It's a celebration of what we are as Canadians and who we are as Canadians. It's a way to showcase our talent. And there is so much talent in Canada.
For these artists, there's a small window of opportunity to take up the torch for the CCA.
Because so many people have said that, you know, if this organization did not exist, we would have to invent it. The board decided also to keep it in a dormant state. So the corporation exists, there will be a transition board, the charitable status, which is not something easy to get, is going to be preserved by doing the right reporting. Hopefully over the next 18 months, people who have said that, you know, have recognized the value of having this sort of umbrella organization will come together and hopefully resuscitate it. So I guess there's a sense of relief that, you know, it's going to be over soon, because it's been difficult letting the staff go. They were extremely loyal to the last minute. This organization has really played a very impressive role over the past 67 years, and I think it still can.
I'm sorry to see it slipping away, because we're not going to have the funding for a long time. It's going to mean everything moves backwards.
With such a short deadline for any chance of revival, most have already said their final goodbyes. For the 25th Hour, I'm Danielle Clausen.
Here's one artist who is feeling the love here in Canada. Stay tuned later on for our interview with Rise Ashen. We'll be talking to this musician, DJ, dancer, triple threat about his upcoming collaboration with fellow Aboriginal artist, Flying Down Thunder.
Now, where was it held?
Also coming up, a day in the life of a mayor. It's hectic, and as the 25th hour found out, never boring. We'll get to take a look behind closed doors at City Hall as we try to keep up with Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson. Rock music isn't what you'd expect to hear at Sunday Mass, but that may be changing. This sound is replacing choirs and hymns as some Ottawa churches try to attract a more youthful crowd. Christian music groups are proving that churchgoers will worship while they groove to a little rock and roll. Laura Nicholson has the story. Laura?
Sherry, churches like this one behind me see flocks of young people come every Sunday. More traditional churches have a bit more of a difficult time bringing young people to the pews. I explored why music plays a very vital role in bringing young people to church on Sunday. What may appear as a rock concert is actually a Sunday evening church service at my church, located at Algonquin College. Young people from all over the city crowd the theater at the 2 Sunday services. Dave Sangali leads the music at my church. He says the music is a big drawing factor for young people.
Music is amazing because it's disarming. It speaks a message on so many different levels. Like, it's not just the words that you're saying, but not just the melody that you're saying, but it's the relation of all the instruments together, all the voices together. I think that speaks the gospel in a way that words can't do by themselves.
For the Lord is good. His unfailing love continues forever, and His faithfulness continues to each generation. So with that echoing in our hearts this morning, I'm going to invite you to stand with me and let's worship and sing this hymn together. It's number 36 in your hymnal if you want to follow along. But let's give God the glory.
A recent study called Hemorrhaging Faith showed that most children who grew up in churches do not continue to attend when they become adults. Dominique Hawley is one of the exceptions. She attends Sunnyside Wesleyan Church and says she enjoys the music despite it being more traditional.
I like that it's not a big event. It's a very personal and real experience for every person. Instead of listening to the worship leaders, it's more of a individual experience.
Everybody in our study said that they were raised in the church. Only 1 in 3 who had attended weekly as a child still attended as a young adult, on a weekly basis that is, and 1 in 2 no longer affiliate with the religious tradition they were raised in. Young adults are willing to sort of overlook the music if the relationships work well, right? If there is that invitation to come and explore the truth rather than being told that this is the truth. Because largely we don't trust other people's experience, right? We trust our own experience. And I think that churches just have to recognize that this is the way in for young adults, and they have to create those opportunities for them to come.
Matt and Nicole Crisp have just released their first EP. It is getting a lot of airplay on Christian radio stations across the country. They agree with Heemstra's study that if relationships are built, then young adults are able to overlook traditional worship.
People have to feel welcome.
Yeah.
I think people have to feel accepted and warm and cared for. I think the moment they walk in the front doors, they have to feel, man, these people don't really care what I look like, and these people don't really care what my previous life has been like and what my current life is. I think acceptance is the #1. I think authentic acceptance is really what it boils down to. I've walked into some interesting church services where probably the music wasn't great, but I felt really accepted. So that's almost just kind of outbalances the music.
Churches like my church understand how youth have a deep longing for acceptance, but also how an atmosphere created by music is vital to keep youth coming out to church.
It's an experience that is like no other. I think that when you step through the doors for the first time and you experience that kind of worship and that kind of atmosphere where everyone's just hearts engaged, just going after God, I think it's kind of it feels like home, and that I think makes a lot of people stay here because they really enjoy just that atmosphere.
Rock the River, a Christian music festival in Ottawa that took place this past fall, saw 22,000 people come out over the weekend to listen to popular Christian music artists. 500 people became Christians over that weekend. The majority of the people that came out were youth.
We wanted to do it in a way that was dynamic and engaging for the youth of our community, and so we brought in some fantastic bands and had the whole stage and the lighting and the whole kind of concert production. Music communicates. I mean, the volume, the sound, bring in great bands like we had. It's just energetic. Whatever you're trying to do, music is whether it's classical or worship or rock or whatever it is, music just communicates. And to this generation, I think that that music is the medium of choice.
Drifting along down empty roads, surrounded by shadows.
I personally believe that it is not by chance that people all across the globe have some sort of music inside of them. You could go to a tribe that has never seen Western culture or European culture, and they've got drums and percussive instruments, and they've just somehow managed to make music. And so I truly believe, even young adults, there's a way that music connects with the soul.
Thank you guys, have a great night. See you next Sunday. See you later.
For the 25th hour, I'm Laura Nicholson.
Music is also drawing these young people out of their homes and into the classroom. Coming all the way from Nunavut, students are learning about their own culture and heritage right here in Ottawa. Reporter Veronica Tang has the story.
Jonah, this classroom is used for learning like any other, but you won't find science or math textbooks around here. These Inuit students are learning about land claims and the Inuktitut language. It goes to show that sometimes you have to be far away to learn more about home.
Can we leave early? Tukisi? Understand?
Thousands of kilometers from home, these Inuit students will spend the next year in Ottawa, learning about their culture, language, and history.
I'm Christine Tutu, originally from Rankin Inlet. I'm Charlotte Kamenuk, originally from Igloolik.
These are the faces of Nunavut's future.
My name is Kayla. I'm from Rankin Inlet.
I'm Justin Nagajuk from Penartung, Nunavut.
My name is Nancy Akkak. I'm from Johaven.
I'm Daniel Manning from Cape Dorset, Nunavut.
For decades, their parents and grandparents have been negotiating with the Canadian government for greater control over their land. The struggle hit a milestone with the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement in 1993. The agreement gives the Inuit of Nunavut more power over resources and territory. Now they are making their own choices for their own future.
It was very complex, and once it was signed, there was going to be a need for a lot of people who knew what was in the agreement to help with the implementation of it.
Nunavut Siviniksivut was born. NS, as it's known around the school, gives Inuit high school grads the chance to learn about their people's culture and political story. Students also get the skills and confidence they'll need to play an active role in the future of Nunavut.
The first year we started with 10 and only 6 finished. This year we started with about 46.
Most students come for a year and have the option to apply for a second. Learning begins as soon as they get to Ottawa.
I know a lot more about the Land Claims Agreement now.
about our culture and our history and language and everything, how Nunavut was created, and it's just amazing. Like,
I want to learn Inuktitut. That's a very big reason why I came here.
You really learn a lot about yourself too as an Inuk.
Students get a tremendous amount. They get all the things that any young person gets when they leave home and live on their own for the first time.
Learning how to do homework without people telling you to do it all the time, constantly, and living on your own, basically. Yeah, independence.
The transition can be hard.
This is a very complex world down here compared to back home. There's a lot of challenges. There's no family here.
I don't really like how busy it is here.
Living in the south, you know, you don't get as much clean air as living in the north.
It's been hard at first, yeah. It's all good now.
What kind of things made it hard?
Like homesickness and trying to cope with the change.
Coming to NS is a big step, one not everyone is ready for right after high school.
When I graduated 2 years ago, I had the application filled out, and last minute I ripped it up. I was like, I'm not ready. Last year, filled it out, same thing, looked at it, I'm not ready. This year, I was like, I'm ready for change, you know, I want to do something with my life, something positive.
One of the most positive parts of the experience are the relationships formed at NS.
Relationships are formed here that are lifelong. It's going to do something useful for Nunavut's future by the fact that these relationships have been forged here at this point in their lives. So when 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when they're in positions of significance back home in their own region, the ties that they've made early on in their adult lives are going to help be glue for Nunavut as a whole later on.
These relationships don't just form in classrooms, students also bond over cultural activities.
I've been doing drum dancing all my life, ever since I was a little boy. Drum dancing is very traditional, and it opens up the ceremonies and closes the ceremonies. I'm thankful for my parents and my grandparents for teaching me how to live my cultural ways.
I love performing, so I wanted to do that as well, and learn more about like Nunavut's history, why it became, how, and what we went through to get it.
Christine sings in Inuktitut. Her song is about how life can be difficult, but you have to keep moving on. Tivai Mackay is one graduate who's moved on from NS. For the past 4 years, she's been studying journalism at Carleton University.
I'm actually audio editing an interview that I did this morning for a Chase story for our midweek radio show.
Between keeping up with classes and applying for law school, Tivai still finds time to give back to NS.
I've always wanted to give back somehow. I'm finally at a point where I feel like my skills and training at Carleton has prepared me to be a tutor at this point. I just saw the opportunity and I took it, and it was challenging at first, but I think I know how to do it now.
When they've reached the finish line, they know from their experience that they now have what it takes to go anywhere they need to in life for school or work, and they can survive and succeed.
After Carleton, Tivai hopes to return home to Nunavut, this time as a journalist, telling the stories of her people and other Aboriginal Canadians.
These youth are part of the generation that's going to help Nunavut regain its strength.
Kaya Hashi has done just that. She's taken her skills to a new job back home.
I am in Iqaluit, Nunavut right now.
For the past year, she has worked at an organization that helps implement land claims for the Inuit people.
Throughout the NS program, I realized my potential. I guess I felt a little more empowered to be able to come home to make a positive contribution.
The biggest impact is one we didn't have the foresight to plan for, but it's proven to be the most significant one, and that is the students' attitudes about themselves and about who they are as Inuit. collectively and personally.
Whatever Inuit want to do with their life, NS is a good place to start because you learn a lot about yourself.
Students leave NS with a whole new attitude from when they came.
So it doesn't matter whether you want to work for the government or go off and be a musician or whatever. It's still a really good benefit.
Students are better equipped and ready to make a change, wherever they end up. For the 25th Hour, I'm Veronica Tang.
Now, 25th Hour reporter Emily Dickinson sits down with the Juno-nominated musician Rise Ashen. But first, a clip from his newest collaboration with Flying Down Thunder.
I'm sitting here at Ottawa's Flavor Factory with Eric Vanny, who's one half of the Juno-nominated duo Rise Ashen and Flying Down Thunder. Their music is an original combination of Aboriginal chanting and house beats. They had their official launch party for their second album, North Wind, at Mercury Lounge last week. Thanks so much for being here with us, Rise.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I hear you and Flying Down Thunder met on the canal.
We did, yeah. It's the typical Ottawa story. So we were, I was out skating, and while I was skating, you hear this beautiful, amazing chanting, and decided to follow the sound and literally skated towards where he was. And he was performing at the time with a woman as Pimadiziwin singers, the Good Life singers. And so they would perform together, and he was drumming, and so started talking to them about collaborating. And at the time, you know, exchanged CDs and stuff like that. And kind of started dialoguing back and forth about maybe starting a project together, and it turned into this after, I guess it's been about 3 years now.
How are you and Flying Down Thunder able to find a sound that suits both of your styles? It seems like a very unlikely combination.
It is. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate because I guess Flying Down Thunder, Kevin, is very he's very musically open-minded. So a lot of the stuff that I do with it, I kind of take into different kind of areas, I guess, musical spheres. And so, for example, on the first record, there was even a dubstep kind of sounding number. There's been some very ambient stuff, which is like very dubby, kind of down-tempo stuff on there. And then there's also house. So, you know, he's pretty open-minded. So typically what it'll be is we try to keep it true in terms of the actual lyrical content and the melodic content. It's very much in the traditional powwow style. So we try to stick true to that side on the Aboriginal side of the music. And then with me, he kind of lets me do whatever I want with it. So it's pretty free on that end.
So what is it about the Algonquin style of powwow music that interests you?
It's really, really deep. It goes really far. And I've just kind of scratched the surface with Kevin, I think, of what's possible out there. But what's fascinating about it is definitely the sounds are so otherworldly, yet it's local music that was here before Westerners came here, you know. So it's very, you know, it's crazy that it's not more known, and it's crazy that it's not more in the public sphere.
What's been the response from the Algonquin community? Has there been any like negative backlash on it?
Oh, there certainly are some people that are not as open-minded and that feel that, you know, I mean, you're always treading in dangerous waters, especially with a history of oppression like this. So I think it's something that we have to navigate very carefully. The record itself is made with the utmost respect for the culture and is really trying to stay true to the stories and to the oral tradition, you know. So, you know, certainly from our intent is to preserve the culture and to promote it, and especially to get young people interested, because part of it is that, you know, everything's so glitz and glam on TV that a lot of the kids don't think it's cool to be into Aboriginal culture. So, you know, we're trying to kind of remix it a bit, just give it a different spin, and try to help kids to get into it.
So what's next for you and Flying Down Thunder?
Keep it open, keep it, you know, just see sort of where the music takes us, you know. It's kind of coming through us. We don't really make the music, so
thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Nice. High five. Yeah.
Thanks, Emily. As we'll learn, it takes more than just hard work to learn an instrument. Music lessons are expensive, and because of this, many kids miss out. Ottawa's Orchestra program is trying to change that. Our reporter Stephanie Nurnberg is down at the Bronson Center. Stephanie, it sounds pretty busy down there. What's going on?
Well, as you can hear, Jonah, there's music filling up the hallway here at the Bronson Center. Behind me is a chamber music ensemble. They're practicing for the final orchestra concert just a few weeks away. But as I found out, the orchestra program is about more than just the music.
Orchestra taught me a lot, like taught me friendship, leadership, and all kind of stuff. Like teach me, like I made lots of friends in the orchestra, like new friends from like every single country.
And 16. The universal language of music. It's what brings these kids together week after week. They are all part of Orchestra, the youth orchestra run on volunteers and kind donations. Their aim is to give underprivileged kids the opportunity to study music for free. Owner of Leading Note Music Store, Tina Fedeschi, has been at the helm since it began in 2007.
We recognized how expensive it is to play an instrument, to study, to have weekly lessons, to buy your instruments and so on. So it really is a program where you're giving children who would never otherwise have the opportunity the chance to make music together and benefit from all the inherent skills.
Orchestra is based off of the Venezuela program El Sistema. Its aim is to use music to keep kids from stumbling down the wrong path.
Did you do it near the frog? Did you make it come off the string and brush with it?
Orchestra continues this tradition in Ottawa. It has brought together more than 500 kids speaking more than 30 languages. Many of them, like Gareth, are refugees.
I used to live in a refugee camp in Carleton, and it was like really crowded place, and that's like there are not a lot of people, you know, like all squished together. I came here to Canada to have like a better life, a better education, a better opportunity. And Miss Tina and Miss Karen performed at my school. And then Miss Margaret played the cello. So I was like, I said, oh my goodness, that's like really like a good pitch and a good voice. So I said, I want to play the cello. I asked her about it, and then she said you could join the program.
It started back in 2007. We just invited all sorts of different children from the local schools. In fact, all sorts of different children, with just 10 children from each school, because we could only start with about 30 children. And so everybody were beginners at that stage in 2007. Then each year we took in more and more children. Now we're at over 200 children. And so of course the children we took in at 2007 are now quite advanced. In fact, many of them are now playing in the Junior Youth Orchestra.
Why do we do that, Jelena? Why do we play slowly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
The audition for the Ottawa Junior Youth Orchestra is a tough process. Karen Kang helped prepare Gareth for his audition.
I started off just teaching him every Monday, and I thought, oh no, he needs more than just one lesson, because I really wanted him to get into OJYO.
I want to audition for the Ottawa Youth Academy Orchestra because I want to keep getting better and better. I want my future to be to play cello forever.
So I got all the repertoire all together, and he started coming actually every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And it's supposed to be just an hour-long lesson, but every Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, it ended up being like 3 hours.
The audition go really well. First, I thought I was gonna be nervous the night before, but the next day I went, and then I saw a lot of people I know, so I wasn't nervous at all. So I just went in, started playing, started warming up, and then go to the audition and I played it.
It was really worth it, and he got principal cello job. So yeah.
That's only one of many accomplishments the children of orchestra have achieved over the years. Last year, Tina was given a Peace Award for her dedication to the program.
The idea behind it is that it's not just a music program, it's a social development program through music, where if you put an instrument into the hands of a child, what do you get? Yes, you get music, but you also get phenomenal discipline, respect, teamwork, patience, compassion. You're listening to each other. You know, you're being patient if somebody makes a mistake or if you make a mistake.
This September, they were invited back to the Peace Awards to share their music. In the first 6 years, orchestra has already given hundreds of kids the opportunity to bring music into their lives, one note at a time. For the 25th hour, I'm Stephanie Nurnberg.
In a city of more than 900,000, there's a lot to be done every day. No one knows that better than Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson. 25th Hour reporter Aman Asman went with him from event to event to event. She's here to tell us what it takes to be mayor of the nation's capital. He seems like a busy man, Aman.
Well, I'm definitely in for a busy day.
So what can we expect from a day in the life of the mayor?
Well, definitely an early morning. It's 7:30 and I had a lot of trouble waking up this morning, but Mayor Jim Watson does this every day, 7 days a week, all throughout the year. But it's not been an easy ride for him. The mayor has received a lot of criticism about the Lansdowne Park project, as well as the newly proposed casino. Today we take a sneak peek to see how he handles the perks and pitfalls of being mayor. It's 7:30 on a Friday morning, and Mayor Jim Watson is already hard at work. The mayor is now 2 years into his current term. On an average day, he visits 12 to 13 events. Today is a rare day because he'll only visit 7. First stop, the Saint Laurent Mall. Mayor Watson is taking part in CFRA's Radiothon to raise money for a hospital and a long-term care facility.
Therefore, I, Jim Watson, Mayor of the City of Ottawa, do hereby proclaim November 2nd, 2012 as the Briere Continuing Care Day in the City of Ottawa. Right on. My pleasure.
Watson was first elected as mayor 14 years ago. He took a short break in 2000 for a stint in provincial politics and was re-elected as mayor in 2010. He has never lost an election.
He's a very hard worker. And he is a politician who generally likes the public aspect of politics. He's out there constantly greasing the wheels, making sure that, you know, things are moving ahead.
Head over there.
I think we're going to
Watson's time in office has not been free of controversy. Critics have hammered him on issues, such as the redevelopment of Lansdowne Park. Today, he witnesses the moving of the site's horticulture building, a historical Ottawa landmark.
We're taking a building that really has been neglected for close to 20 years and not really accessible to the public, and moving it, which in and of itself is a pretty remarkable task, and revitalizing the building. So it's going to become a focal point of the new Lansdowne Park in a couple of years.
The Friends of Lansdowne Community Group was against the redevelopment from the beginning, arguing there was never a competitive bidding process. They took the city to court, but the appeal was thrown out. Construction began in October.
And I thought that when Jim came in, he could have at least said, look, everybody, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, and by the way, yes, it is going to cost a lot of money. He didn't. My fundamental criticism is the way he handled the Lansdowne Park process, which I thought then and now was one of the most major policy failures of any government in my lifetime.
But municipal experts aren't as quick to put the blame on Watson.
So his role has really been to push those projects along. They weren't part of any grand vision for Ottawa or the National Capital Region that he articulated.
Watson and his council have started many pilot projects to improve the look of the city. This vinyl-covered box, aimed at reducing vandalism, is one of them.
By working together to lessen graffiti vandalism, we not only lower our maintenance costs, but we all benefit from having a more beautiful city.
After a busy morning, there's even time for lunch.
I make my
I pay. I'm going to pay your taxes.
Watson is an interactive mayor. Even at lunch, he's tweeting to his 16,000 followers.
I tweeted that I was going to the Garlic King, and the chief of police just tweeted back and said, hope you don't have any meetings in the afternoon. I've tweeted back saying I'm going to use Listerine. It's hard to have an in-depth discussion with 140 characters, but at least you can get information out quickly, or they can get information to you quickly.
Social media aside, nothing beats meeting locals in person.
How's business?
Business is here, all guys busy.
I know.
Thanks God, no complaint.
He is so out there in the community, he takes the time, he remembers people, he's approachable. I think that makes him a good, effective mayor for our city.
To kick off the afternoon, Watson attends the renaming of the Maryville Centennial Arena. Its new name, the Howard Darwin Arena, is to honor the former owner of the Ottawa 67s.
Ça me fait le plaisir d'être votre maître de cérémonie, and I'm pleased to be...
Despite his ability to be everywhere at once, no mayor is perfect.
He sometimes doesn't go is to see the big picture. So we don't have a sense really from him how he sees Ottawa developing.
He's not the most transparent person in the world. I mean, he's a very friendly person, shakes your hand, hi, tells great stories, but he doesn't reveal a lot of stuff.
Not every event is filled with fanfare and photo ops. Once a week, Watson quietly slips into local events to show his support. Did you know that the mayor was coming at all?
I have no idea he was going to come. This is a very pleasant surprise.
With 2 years to go, Watson still has a checklist of campaign promises that he's working his way through.
So to oversee the implementation and the start of light rail, the Lansdowne project, to see its completion. I'd like to start the cleanup of the Ottawa River.
He's somebody who really loves the city and really loves the people in the city.
He's very active as a mayor. You know, it's sort of like 25/8 for him, not even 24/7.
Every day I come into work and I feel blessed because working with good people. We have a very caring city. If I can leave the city in better shape financially and socially and economically and environmentally, then I think I'll have accomplished a great deal.
For the 25th hour, I'm Ima Nesbitt.
Thanks, Aman. Now let's turn to something a bit different. They're flexible, they're provocative, but most importantly, they're athletic. Pole fitness looks tough and the dancers want to be taken seriously. But is it set for the big time? Reporter Andrea Gentile finds out whether pole fitness enthusiasts are ready to dance their way to the Olympics.
Over the last couple of years, alternative types of fitness like pole dancing have been rapidly increasing in popularity. Abby Lauye has been taking pole fitness classes for 7 months.
Pole fitness it's combination gymnastics and dance, really, when you think about it, because there's a lot of strength training involved in being able to lift yourself up and go upside down and hold poses for extended periods of time. That takes a lot of strength and a lot of discipline, and a lot of the moves require a lot of flexibility. It's a lot of fun, and I feel good about myself doing it.
So we're going to start with our regular world section.
Molly Stogran is a group fitness instructor at Ottawa Pole Fitness. She did ballet for 17 years before converting to pole fitness.
So start with your strong hand up. I would say that I'm definitely a pole fitness person in the sense that I don't have the sexy and the performances. It's not about tiny little, underwear that you're dancing in and, just really having the sex appeal aspect of it. I would say the real difference, while you can pole dance with strength, pole fitness is about strength and toning and that type of thing.
Stogran says that she has definitely seen an increase in people that take pole fitness classes over the last couple of years. And different people take it for different reasons.
There's the fitness side of it and then like the sexy side of it, so they're both totally legitimate in my opinion. There's some people out there who just like pole dance, like we don't need the sexy part, but no, I'd say the biggest thing is just the showing your strength.
Many believe that pole fitness has started to consolidate itself as a legitimate sport. This is especially true here in Canada. In fact, the Ontario Pole Fitness Championship was held this September at the Bronson Centre in Ottawa. Now, the International Pole Sports Federation is putting pressure on the Olympic Committee to formally recognize pole dancing as an Olympic sport. Fitness instructor Maria Cavan hopes to see it compete already for Rio 2016.
It's really challenging. I mean, you could look at it, like I said, in the fitness perspective. It's sort of acrobatic and it's got pieces of gymnastics in it. It definitely uses a lot of strength. So it should be an Olympic sport for sure.
I think it should. I'd watch that event. I mean, again, it's something that requires a lot of training, and when it's done right, it doesn't look like it takes a lot of effort, but when you're actually doing it, you can tell how much time and effort went into perfecting most of these moves, and then you can see how it really is a sport. You train for pole as much as you would train for gymnastics.
Bring your other hand over top. Pole fitness might require a lot of technique and flexibility, but not everyone involved in pole fitness thinks that it should become an Olympic sport.
There have been these things going around for so long, like ballet should be an Olympic sport, like just trying to get dance in, trying to get everything. It's I don't know if I'm shooting myself in the foot. I honestly don't think so, because, unlike gymnastics where everything can look the exact same, when people do a certain thing, it looks the same. Figure skating, same deal. Here, me and 2 other instructors can do the exact same move, yet it looks completely different because of the way that our bodies are.
In fact, sports like kayaking that already compete in the Olympics are very different from pole fitness because they are easier to judge and compare between the different athletes. Michael Taylor is an Olympic kayaker who competed in London 2012. While training hard to make it to Rio, he shared his thoughts on pole fitness with us.
I mean, I'm sure it could, honestly, probably could fit in somewhere in the gymnastics program, but it's not. There are lots of sports that require a ton of strength, ton of flexibility, and everything that aren't Olympic sports.
Kara McDonald is an ex-ballerina who doesn't even consider pole fitness a real sport.
But I've seen YouTube videos of girls doing basically a horizontal stand off a pole. Clearly you need to be strong to do that, but I don't think it should be a sport. It's more of I don't even want to say it's an art form, but I don't know what it is.
For those who really want to see it become an Olympic sport, the road is still long and chances of us seeing it in Rio are thin. A petition had already been made in 2010 to get pole fitness into the 2012 Olympics. The Pole Sports Federation had managed to gain more than 6,000 signatures, but that wasn't enough to convince the Olympic Committee. Pole dancers from all around the world hope that this time things will be different, but there are lots of other requirements besides enthusiasm for it to become an Olympic sport.
There's a process that you have to go through, and there's a lot of requirements. I think you have to be pretty established worldwide. We're talking how many countries actually do this sport, and also there's got to be gender equality is another thing. I don't know. Is there a men's class?
We get some men, not as many, because we do kind of cater towards our biggest demographic, which is women. But you will see that we have co-ed classes.
But a big problem is that many associate pole dancing with something else.
I don't know. Olympics are seen as these golden, clean-cut athletes that are supposed to be your heroes that you look up to. And when I think of pole dancing, I think of strippers.
It takes people a while until I explain that I'm not somewhere taking off my clothes for men. But as soon as I explain that it's a workout and it's really a form of dance / gymnastics, then they start to understand that it's not stripping.
Maybe it needs to change its image and get away from that and become more established, and then it could maybe look at being in the Olympics.
Whether we like it or not, pole fitness has a long way to go before it is considered legitimate.
Nevertheless, the Olympic Committee still has to make its final decision. In the meantime, the question remains, to pole or not to pole? For the 25th hour, this is Andrea Gentile.
Handlebars, toothbrushes, and a walrus. They have more in common than you think, as mustaches. Even though I can't grow one, for many men, that fuzzy mustache is back in style for Movember. Before it's time to shave it all away, Kelsey Johnson takes a look at what a mustache can do to help fight prostate cancer. Kelsey?
Sherry, at first glance, there's simply a patch of hair on a man's face. But there's more power behind the twitch of a mustache than one might think.
For most men, it's a standard routine. Slap on the cream,
Applying some shaving cream.
hold one's breath, and shave it all off. But for Carleton student Dylan Haggard, the clean-shaven look has disappeared, at least for the month of November.
It takes a little bit of sacrifice, but you can have some fun with it. You know, there's different things you can do, the handlebars, the soul patch, the French tickler, whatever, all those names they call it.
Dylan is part of Movember, an international fundraising campaign started in Melbourne, Australia in 2003. The goal is to raise awareness and funds for men's health issues. Charles McIver is one of the co-chairs of Carleton's Movember campaign. For him, the time to educate is now.
Whether you're a Mo bro or a Mo sister, everyone needs to
know about the campaign. If you're aware of this sort of thing when you're young, then you'll be able to use it when it's more important to you when you're older.
But for Dylan, Movember is about more than simply growing a mustache. Dylan's father was diagnosed with cancer in the summer of 2011. In honor of his dad, Dylan looked for a way to give back.
When Movember came during the third year, it really hit hard for me. I was like, I'm going to raise money, I'm going to raise awareness, because I don't want anyone to have to go through that moment.
Although his dad is recovered, Dylan still grows a mustache. For the past month, he has sacrificed his looks for the greater cause. It may not be personal for Jace Patkai, but for him, the message behind the mustache is important.
It really doesn't matter if you have a sponsor or not. It's just more like a statement supporting the cause of looking for a cure for prostate cancer. So that's something that a lot of men can unite.
However, in Dylan's eyes, the message is lost without the funding to back it up.
When you see these people who A, are really against Movember, or B, the guys who are just growing it for no reason and not really raising money, it strikes a sore spot. You're not doing it for the right reasons when you should be.
Me and I think a majority of a lot of other guys that are growing mustaches do not have sponsors, and it's more of a cultural thing. But it's the sacrifices we make for the causes we believe in.
Still, is this effort to raise more awareness making more men visit their family doctors? Dr. Bro is a urologist at the Ottawa Hospital. He treats men with prostate cancer. While it doesn't necessarily mean more doctor visits, he says at least men are thinking about their health.
But it didn't have the same sort of discussion that breast cancer has, for example. Part of that, I think, is because it's a male disease. And while it's a bit of a generalization, men tend to ignore their own health problems or don't want to discuss them, especially when it comes to things like sexuality. I think in prostate cancer, while we're getting better at increasing awareness, certainly Movember has improved a lot.
The movement and the message is spreading. Last year alone, the campaign raised more than $125 million. Over 850,000 men in 14 different countries grew a mustache for the cause. Whatever the reason, this eye-catching message is enough to keep these men grooming their mustaches along.
Hi, my name is Dylan Haggart. I'm proudly participating in Movember this year, and this is my attempt at a stash.
Hi, my name is Dr. Bro, and this is my stash.
Hello, my name is Charles McIver, and this is my stash.
Hello, my name is Jace, and this is my stash.
For the 25th hour, I'm Kelsey Johnson.
And that's our show for today. I'm Sherry Ask.
And I'm Jonah Birnbaum. On behalf of all of us here at the 25th Hour, thanks for watching. Can't grow a great mustache either.
I think you could grow a pretty good mustache.